My name's Carole Scrafton, and as a patient advocate, I'm actually honoured to have been invited to speak today about patient engagement within early development and preclinical phases of clinical research. What, who, where, when and why, a patient's perspective. At a time when clinical research is on the minds of everyone, it is rather poignant that my topic is more relevant now than it was when I was originally invited. Many researchers have heard that they should be involving patients as early as possible, but don't really know what that means. This means include us from the onset, during early development, planning and conceptualization, and not when the trial protocol is ready. There is a need to improve patient recruitment onto trials, and also once they are recruited, to keep them on the trial until the end. This phase of early development is a great time to put measures into place that could help with both. What are the best approaches for improving patient recruitment and retention? It is my belief that implementing patient engagement from the onset of the trial during trial design could be the beneficial answer. To begin with, I think the most appropriate questions to ask are, what does patient engagement mean to you? At what phase of clinical research do you usually begin to involve patients? If not during early development, why is that? For a moment, I'd like you to picture yourselves as that new researcher in the field, sitting down to develop a new study. You have an idea of what therapeutic area you wish to pursue, and possibly even an idea of what it is you would like to explore. Before putting pen to paper, I want you to think about these questions. What do you think it entails? What do you think the end point of utilising that as a tool will give you? As patients, we propose that during this stage of early development is where you can really utilise patient engagement to develop your trial design into something that will possibly have the potential to go beyond preclinical and move through to phase 1, rather than not make it into or past preclinical. Why, you ask? My answer is that by engaging with patients during early development, you will discover what the needs of the patients are beforehand, rather than when you are beginning the testing phases. And you will work to meeting those unmet needs right from the beginning to ensure that you can form a relationship which you hope to develop into something more long-term, such as co-creating with patient partners rather than a one-stop experience. Early development includes gathering a natural history and relevant disease information to develop a condition and therapy area profile. Looking for those gaps through gap analysis and discovering unmet patient needs regarding medications and treatments or drug delivery systems that patients would like to see addressed, such as unwanted side effects, size or shape of the tablets, for instance. In some cases, there might be an issue connected to adherence or the monotony of logging down their trial data. Maybe you will need to refer to some type of digital health monitoring system, train up specialist nurses that can visit a trial participant at home. These are just a few solutions that you can put in place if you find out during early development when engaging with patients. If left until when you were at testing phases, time and resources might not be so affluent, and therefore problems like these could jeopardise your study when people drop out. Develop your research methodology with patients to evaluate the best approaches to address your research objectives. What methods of engagement will be the most appropriate? Focus groups, surveys, one-to-one? Obviously not at the moment. And where? Who? Creating the most desired endpoints to suit both the researchers and patients, all stakeholders, for the best target value profile or target product profile. Unmet needs. Sometimes health is such a problematic factor, such as fatigue, that often isn't recognised, and patients who are chronically ill get fatigued very easily. They might need to fetch lots of complex medical equipment, and coupled with time sensitivity issues, this is quite stressful. They may need an overnight stay, And the issue with that is they may not have the finance to cover the cost, which does put people off. It is much better to know well in advance the people who might need your help to cover some logistical cost in order for them to attend your trial site, even if they are only with you for an hour or two. Taking basic logistics into account, such as trial location and the distance you expect them to travel, you can prevent problems ahead of time and uncover a different set of unmet needs that normally wouldn't become apparent until much later on, when recruits drop out of studies due to not being well enough or mobile enough to travel to your trial site. Retention is a huge problem, isn't it? So finding any solution to help keep patients on the trial throughout it from beginning to end as early as possible can only be a positive outcome. Something else for consideration during early development is, who do you need, from where and when? You don't just need patients, and patients would like to know who is involved with the trial and what they do. Some don't know what a clinical trial is, never mind early development, so this is a prime opportunity to bring patients in and educate them so that by the time testing phases come around, they have a full understanding of the processes involved and what each person within those processes do. A chance for them to share information about the disease your study is about, and for you to educate them about the importance of their participation and also the role that caregivers can play as well. There is also an opportunity from the onset to educate your team about patient engagement and what your expectations are. Provide information about your processes to your team and the patient community. Listen to the patients, talk with the patients so that you can figure out how to provide adequate accessibility for future engagement. Through listening and gathering information from patients, you can provide better communication and also follow-up discussions along the way, help your patient partners stay updated, which also helps if the larger community needs activation. Back in 2018, I came across an organisation called Patient Focused Medicines Development, PFMD for short, and as a backbencher became intrigued by the work that they were doing. I joined them as a volunteer patient advocate and with Fibroflutters to help with the development of patient engagement tools that could be used to improve the research and development processes. PFMD believe that patient engagement can be a doorway to achieving patient-centric ideals, and also believe that patients should be included from the onset and used a unique approach following the clinical trial process to developing the tools that can help you to construct and design patient engagement strategies before and during designing your trial. One of those tools that was created was this patient engagement quality guidance criteria. I will now guide you through briefly these 7 criteria that can help you to compose your patient engagement strategy. 1, shared purpose. It must be a shared journey with a common goal, something that you do with the patients and not just to or for them. What endpoint is required the most? Discovering unmet needs regarding the medication or treatment and developing a trial to produce something that benefits you both. 2, respect and accessibility. Meeting those unmet needs, which do you need to meet and how will you do it? A few examples. Can your participants get to the trial? Are they well enough? Do you have disabled access? 3, representativeness of stakeholders. Everyone who is involved throughout the process of your intended trial need to be included and not just the patients from the onset. This is to help develop trust and hopefully long-term relationships that can be used again and create patient partnerships that you can nurture. 4, roles and responsibilities. Who are the people behind the trial? Patients don't know what your roles are. This is an opportunity to educate each other about what the trial is, as who the people are that are involved. Patients don't necessarily know what the trial entails beyond taking a pill. Why is each role important, especially that of the patient? 5, capacity and capabilities for engagement. Logistics, how will the trial happen and with whom? This for me ties in with number 2. How will you engage, for instance, if your participant can't get to the trial site? Are you considering the remote or decentralized approaches to your trial, and what will you need to achieve them? We are all aware how this coronavirus pandemic has pushed the world of telehealth and digital into the fast lane when looking at trials, and technological solution providers are popping up everywhere. However, what are your needs to pursue your trial? What are your capabilities? What do you need to outsource? What training is needed by yourselves, not just the patients? You must also remember to consider the potentiality of what if your participants don't have a computer or a smartphone? How will you combat that? It's not okay to assume that everyone uses technology, and within the patient communities that does get discussed, despite what surveys and statistical reports tell you. Transparency in communication and documentation, meaning using lay language. And in fact, one of the other guides that we've been producing is specifically for producing pain language summaries. It is well known by now that a number of patients refrain from getting involved with research because they don't understand the language. Health literacy is an important issue that should be taken seriously if you want to improve trial recruitment and retention levels. 7, continuity and sustainability. The aim is to use these criteria as a collaborative and practical framework when planning your patient engagement activities. Creating a sustainable patient engagement strategy before designing your trial seems appealing to me as a patient because it can potentially help to prevent bottlenecks and save time, energy, and expense for all involved. A sustainable strategy helps to create continuity of practice and embed the patient engagement strategies that you build into the culture of your research and good working practices. A culture that all stakeholders get to learn and know right from the onset, so that continuity and sustainability cross-functionally across different stakeholder groups are more achievable with you all following the same page. Remember, a study can take a decade, so developing something sustainable must be beneficial towards potential success of your study. These criteria are there for guidance, as with any type of tool, and the same applies to the how-to guide that I contributed towards co-creating. Every trial will be different, and you will all have your own ideas of what patient engagement means to you, and at the beginning, I asked you to consider that. I hope that by explaining this particular tool, it has helped to provide some new things to consider and hopefully persuade you to engage with patients earlier within your studies. As a multi-stakeholder group, we have used these criteria to develop the how-to guide for implementing patient engagement into early development and preclinical phases of clinical research. The guide we have created is split into sections to make it easier, and each one referred to the patient engagement quality guidance, as you can see in this early infograph of our model, which has altered a lot. So the one in the current guide is very different to this, and I don't have that to share with you today, but when you participate in the public consultation, if you choose to, you will see it there. I'd like to say that all slides from PFMD are available after this presentation. The next two slides show an overview of multi-stakeholder working groups and also one which shows all the contributors. I advocate strongly for multidisciplinary approaches to all aspects of medical healthcare, so I'm a huge supporter of all stakeholder approaches. You will notice that from the clinical and academic sides of the industry, the numbers are quite low. And this is something that would be great if it could change. As patients, your input is just as valuable to creating these kinds of tools for us as patients as all the other industry contributors, from pharma, medical, for instance. This slide shows you a more in-depth view of all the contributors to all of the working groups connected to the how-to guides. I show you this because the early development guide is part of a series that follows the whole trial process from beginning to end, including how to produce plain language summaries, as mentioned earlier. Each guide is designed as an educational tool for use by multi-stakeholders across the whole medical healthcare landscape, including clinical, medical, pharmaceutical, and of course, healthcare providers, students, and patients too. In the next slide, you can see the structure of all how-to guides. Notice all the different, oh, it's missed a slide. Sorry. So, to finish off, why it is important to engage with patients from the onset. You can use education early to help improve recruitment and retention by making sure everyone is in the know. Through using listening skills, you can provide better trial accessibility for those with severe health and mobility problems, especially those who would have a long distance to travel. Provide remote access through digital tools and local healthcare providers with specialist nurses to visit patients at home. Improve communication to better the understanding of the trial process from the beginning, to prepare participants ahead of time, giving them the chance to learn and get used to what is expected from them before the testing phases begin. Through engaging from the onset, you are more likely to develop trusting long-term partnerships with patient communities who can also introduce you to other patient groups. Trust in the long run will improve their will to stay on course of the trial, improve adherence, because they will have people to contact if they have any concerns. If this increase is in adherence, then in turn your efficacy levels will improve. In a nutshell, as hinted already, you will further improve your chances of further involvement from patients as partners and not just trial recruits, and they are more likely to endorse you, which is good with respect to social responsibility. Your patient pool for future studies could see a bit of growth opening up more doors for even more successful patient engagement with patients as partners. Early development is crucial with respect to education and patient understanding, so I end with this quote: "Tell me and I forget. Teach me and I remember. Involve me and I learn," by Benjamin Franklin. And if you would like to get involved with the how-to guides, there is the public consultations, and this information's there for anybody who would like to get involved and have their say on the usability of the guides before they get launched next year. And say thank you to Patient Focused Medicine's development for supporting this keynote with slides and giving me speaking advice, and to everybody who I've worked with as well. Thank you for listening, and all slides are available for access, including the ones provided by PFMD. Any questions?